Hi there, Steve here. So this morning is going to be sort of a longer video for those of you who have the patience. I hope it's useful. Some of you may not want to watch it. I'm talking again about, getting into a new language, which for me now is Turkish, and I'm showing you what I do. Some people seem to not like the fact that I refer to LingQ, but that's in fact where I learned, so it's going to be about LingQ. And I've been at it for 5 or 6 days, and I'm going to show you the sort of state of my progress and some of the things that I do. It's a good 15 minutes using Loom that enables me to get onto the web version and also of LingQ, and also I can connect my iPod and show you what I do on the iPad, what I do on a mobile device. It's kind of a part of my activity. The biggest part of what I do is listening, as you'll see. What I think is important is to learn a language, and I think what separates sort of successful or experienced language learners from less successful or less experienced language learners is our willingness, us, the sort of language learners, our willingness to accept uncertainty, things that we don't understand, and to still continue confident that even as we're getting all kinds of words dumped on us, and as we're trying to read things that we don't understand, and we don't know how the conjugation works, and we don't know a number of rules of grammar, and so there's all kinds of stuff that's uncertain. But as long as we just plow forward like we're swimming in this stuff, whether the breaststroke or the crawl, and it's all kind of washing over us, and while we think we're not learning anything, in fact, our brain is slowly starting to get accustomed to it. And so that's what you're going to see, that I'm exposing myself to these stories in Turkish, and I listen for the 10th, 12th, 15th time, and I don't understand, and I read and listen, and I understand a little better, and then I listen again, and I don't understand, and I know that there's all kinds of Turkish grammar, and people talk about it on the internet, suffixes and stuff like that, but I don't even want to know about those things. I just want to get a sense of how the language works, where I can actually start to make some meaning of what I am reading and listening to. That's all I want to achieve. And I know from experience that if I persevere in that, if I keep doing that, slowly the fog lifts. Slowly the brain starts to see certain structures, certain patterns, certain words as natural, as having meaning. And as that starts to happen, you start to gain a toehold. The jigsaw puzzle starts to have a few pieces that make the other pieces start to become clearer. So we have to accept uncertainty, and for quite a long time, because we're constantly challenging ourselves to go into more difficult content where there are more new words, and again, it's uncertain. And on Twitter, I saw this teacher saying, comprehensible input, but how do you know for sure that your students understood? And you need to ask them, even if you ask them in their own language. And of course, my point of view in all of this is, it doesn't matter if I understand. It doesn't matter if I understand incorrectly. And I quote the famous Brazilian educator, Rubem Alves, who says, nothing, disturbs the enjoyment of reading as much as being asked questions about what we have read. It's not necessary. I can plow forward, misunderstanding, not understanding. It doesn't matter. As long as I have the willingness to accept uncertainty, and as long as I keep going, eventually the fog will lift. And that's a great feeling. And that, as I say, is in that first 3-month period, as we take something that's totally unfamiliar to us, strange, just so much noise, and at the end of that 3-month period, we are now at least familiar with the language to some extent. And then we have another long, long road to go. Okay then, and I hope you enjoy this video, the demonstration of how I work both on the browser and in my iPad. Bye for now. So here I am using Loom, and I'm doing something I haven't done before. I'm going to demonstrate what I do on the web version, the browser version, and what I do on my iPad, which I have connected to my computer, and hope I'll be able to demonstrate. We're talking about, as I said, we're talking about a new language. How do we get traction in a new language? How can we expect to progress in a new language? And I'm going to show you what I do in the case of Turkish. Now, every language is different. Turkish, for me, has very few cognates or words that I know from other languages, although there are some from European languages, some from Arabic and Persian, which, of course, help when I find them. Okay, so I have poked around the library a little bit, but most of my learning is around these mini stories. I started Turkish. So the first thing is, so when did I start Turkish? It's kind of useful to remember if you're dealing with a new language, when did you actually start and how much have you been doing? So for those of you who are on LingQ, you can go to your picture, and if you look at the picture, there's a number of things that are available there. People very often don't realize they can change their settings, their dictionary language, or other settings. They can look at their profile, which I'm going to do, but they can also look at the Academy or the Help areas in order to see explanations and videos on how to get more out of LingQ. But I wanted to show you here the profile because that's where I get a quick snapshot of when I started and what I've been doing. We notice, by the way, that I have 189 known words in Turkish, that I've been creating far more links here, if you can see this, than my goal. I have a 6-day streak, so I guess I've been going 6 days. And if we look at this, we will see that this is known words. Let's start with my major activity really is initially is listening. So let's go to listening. Listening for the last 7 days. So we see that I started on the 5th of June, and I listened half an hour. I took it up to a little over an hour, back down to 40% of an hour, whatever that is, 25 minutes. Had a big day here. I must have been jogging or cleaning up around the house. And so this is my listening. So I have a total of, in 6 days, I've got 6 hours. So I'm listening about an hour a day. And that typically triggers my reading because after I listen, I can't understand. And so here again, you'll see that the reading significantly increased and dropped down. One of the things with reading is that the system automatically tracks when you read something for the first time because the blue words are converted to, yellow or known words. It doesn't track automatically the second or third time you read. But of course, I do read the same story quite a few times because I don't understand it, even after reading it 2 or 3 times. So that you have to manually add, all right? So make sure you do that. And I think I started manually adding in the times that I read a story for the second or the third time. I could go on with this, the number of links, created, for example. And here again, it shows, my daily activity. Some days I create as many as 446 links. This typically will mean that I went in new material. If I'm reviewing old material, then I'm not creating so many links. So I just mentioned that to you as a place that you can go to regularly just to see, when you started, when you've been active, and things of that nature. All right, before I leave, one thing I have thought of is, one thing that Konstantin in Kiev with his Russian-speaking audience does, he has his learners share their daily statistics with other members of the group. So, for example, yesterday, this is what I did yesterday. Somehow, he does it on Telegram. I don't know if people have any ideas on a quick way. People share what they did. They ask each other questions, people who are learning the same language. Anyway, now I'm going to see if I can get onto my iPad. So hopefully this works. So I am in my mini stories. Let's see that opens up. Very good. Now I'm not sure that I can. No. You'll have to follow the cursor. You see here, play course audio. If I click there, I will have the whole 60 stories of the audio will be available to listen to in a playlist. Although you can define that, if I don't want to, so if I do that, play course audio, so you can then choose here whether you want to look at all of the, listen to all the audio, like all 60 lessons, one after the other, or just the ones that you have completed, or just the ones that you have opened. So this way, if I've only, say, completed 10 stories, then it'll loop back and just do the first 10 stories. Also, it's worth noticing that you can, with each story, you can choose to go over and over again or just continue to the next story. Now, let's go back here for a second. If we go through these stories, you'll see that because there's a solid green line there, these are all the stories where I have gone through once and created links. In other words, I see all these blue words and I sort of take off the cover, so to speak, to see what's there. And I find that if I let's go back for a second to the playlist. So we'll see on the playlist that, story one I've listened to 25 times. I still don't understand the same parts. Lesson 2, lesson 3, and I don't listen to them. I may sometimes listen 2 or 3 times to the same story. Typically, I'll do that if I have the story open on my iPad and I just have it repeating, and then I go and read the story and then I listen again. Or if I'm listening on my iPhone or my iPod Touch, then typically I'm going story 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it loops back to story 1 again. However, despite having listened to these stories so many times, they're still relatively unclear to me. Now, that's not surprising. It's been my experience. If, however, I go to a story, let's say story 6 here, and if I can to get to the story, I can either slide and open it, or I can touch the big, 6. So either way, if I touch the big 6 number, it'll open up the story. Now, if I listen to the story, which I can't do because the sound won't come through with Loom here, but if I listen to the story and read at the same time, I kind of more or less understand it. If there's words there that I can, yeme yeler is to eat, aksham is dinner, beraber, together, saat yedine, 7 o'clock, akşam yemeği yerler, oyuları is their child, onlarla birlikte yemek yer. So they eat together with them, the child's son eats together with them. Yeah, if I have the opportunity to read it and listen to it, I understand it. Once I go away and I don't have the help of being able to read it, I have a lot of trouble understanding it. However, I know from experience that in time, this will improve. Now, when I read something for the 3rd or 4th time, by the way, just to show you, if I click on the 3 dots at the top, then I've read that says 4 times. I can add 1 time. Okay, that's not true yet, but that's where you have to add in manually when you read the story for the however many times. So I can look at the course here, and just to show you what happens, because after a while, when I read the story for the 3rd, 4th, 5th time, we have to remember that anything we do for the 3rd, 4th, 5th time, we're getting less out of it. It is repetition, but there's less novelty, less freshness, and I find that we start to get stale. So I'll alternate going over the same old stories with going to new stuff. So I can go up to story 21, for example. And, I've done story 21. So again, I can hit the top dots there and just simply go next. Let's see what story 22 looks like. So story 22 has blue words. So that's great. So, and I see some words like doctor, of course, I can tell from English. Doctora is to the doctor. Yiden, I know that verbs that contain gid, and I'm not, giden is to go. So this is a story about Emine who goes to the doctor, okay? Emine, Kendini. I don't know what Kendini is. I have to look it up. Oh, himself. Oh, Kendini, all right. I know is good. And hissetmior, like hissetmior is to feel. I know that, I remember that vaguely. And me is no, not. So, I look it up. Hissetmior. So I kind of still keep that as a yellow word, but I enjoy uncovering the blue word. So bashi per, not clear what that means. Head, Adior hurts. Okay, she's got a headache. Adior, and they, I know is and. Boazi, boaza, throat. Boaza, shishti, sore. I presume that it says swelled, but then if I save that together, it probably says sore throat. Throat swish. That's not very good. That's kind of a bad. So if I go to my dictionary, and let's go to see what this dictionary tells us. Swollen throat. All right, maybe. Sorry, well, I'll call that a sore throat. That's maybe I should also point out that these are the dictionaries that I have here. Any dictionary that doesn't give me good answers, I don't use. But I find this Sesli Sözlük is quite good. One thing to show you, for example, Turkish suffix. Suffixes are a big deal in Turkish. So this dictionary shows you a complete list of all the different suffixes. So, if I pick that one, but there is no way that I can remember all of this. This is just a reference area. If I ever have a question about suffixes, I just go there. And so it's kind of handy to have that without pretending that we can learn that. All right. Same with the verb conjugators. Here's a verb conjugator. I have to go to find the Turkish. Where did you go? Turkish. So, and I know some of these verbs like gitmek, yemek to eat, sevmek to like. But if I click on one of them, I see this tremendous range of verbs. Obviously, there is no way, if I were to confront that without having been exposed to a lot of the language, I would be totally intimidated. So I ignore that. I just know that it's there. It's a reference that I can go to. My main task right now, and this is what I want to leave you with, is I want to, at this stage, 5 days into the language, I want to expose myself to the language. I can do this either by going over material that I have already read, listened to 20 times, read 5 times, or alternate that with moving forward and reading news stories. And in the news stories, there will be words that I've seen before. For example, this karar verir. Karar verir is to decide. I know that. Karar verir. I've come across it before. Decides. So you'll come across some words that you've seen before, and you'll uncover some new words. And so I'm not worried about remembering them, but I just want to provide some variety so that I'm not kind of constantly going over the same material, that I'm varying new material with trying to get better at recognizing old material. 5 days in, I'm at lesson 22 in terms of uncovering new material. And, at the end of month 1, I think I'll be able to understand the first 20 lessons. And month 2, the first 40, and month 3, I'll have 60. And by that time, then, I will be at the end of what I consider the first stage in language learning, and that is for the language no longer to seem strange, but for the language to seem, at least familiar, so that you can then expand from there back to, let's see what happens if I press this. Okay, expand from that and then start to accumulate a lot of vocabulary so that you can actually get comfortable in the language. So that is, now I will try and shut this thing down somehow. I hope that was useful, helpful. If you have any questions about anything that you saw there, or any other questions about language learning, about LingQ, please don't hesitate to ask me. And remember, don't worry about what you understand. Give yourself credit for what you have already achieved. And when you look back and think about it, you'll realize that you have actually come a long way. Okay, bye for now.